The Lucky Scottish, you got good food going, good drinks. We got the Waukegan City Clerk is in the building. Janet Gill Kelly, she's hanging out with us. She'll be back in a second. We got some local polls that we want to get you guys informed on who's winning. Brandon, I'm gonna let you come in on this one.
All right. So in Lake County right now, we have Vice President Kamala Harris is in the lead. So she is 164,000 votes to Donald Trump's 110,000 votes. We got some congressional races that are going on. So Mike Quigley is actually down. So he is the incumbent Democrat running for re-election in the 5th Congressional District. He is currently down by just a little over 100 votes to Tommy Hansen. Janice Schakowsky is up slightly over her opponent, Seth Allen Cohen. Congressman Brad Schneider is 135,000 votes to Jim Karras's 88,000 votes. So Brad Schneider is in the lead. Bill Foster, the Democrat, is actually down slightly to Jerry Evans. So in addition to the presidential race, we also are watching tonight for control of the Senate and the House. The Senate and the House, because if you get a Democratic president like VP Harris, but she doesn't have the legislature, that could be an issue, right? It makes it very, very hard. So moving into some of the state races.
I don't know what that is.
That's mine, ain't it? Yeah, Coke. We got Mary Edley Allen, who is the incumbent, running against Ashley Jensen.
Hey, hold that beat.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about if somehow Vice President Harris has become the president.
Yes.
What does it look like right now on the help that she is needing on the Congress, for the Congress side and the Senate side? Is it looking like she's going to have that help right now if you had to project it? Or is it going red or blue based on who has the House? Or
it's going to be tight. So right now, the Republicans already control Congress, the lower level. Senate is the Democrat control, but it's a 50-50, and VP Harris is the tie.
Right, she's a tie.
Vote, right?
Yeah.
So it's 51 to 50 is the control right now. So as you look at those races for U.S. Senate right now, there are 46 seats that have been called for the GOP. The Democrats have 35. So that means that if they can flip just one of those Democratic seats, then control of the Senate will go to the Republicans.
Got you.
And then when you look at the U.S. House, right now it's really early in the night, so they've called 85 races for the Republicans, 63 for the Democrats. So we'll see. But again, we know when you have a divided government, sometimes it impacts what it is that you can do.
For sure. Even as a president, when you look at the bills that you can get through, the laws you get through, that is affected by that. And a lot of people use that to Biden to say, well, Biden had so much support, or Obama had the House for 4 years, had it for 4 years. So we'll see how it goes. 2 years.
Yeah, both of them. Both of them only had control
for 2.
Of all 3 for 2. And then you see, in my opinion, right, I'm biased, I'm admitting that, but Democrats had one of the most successful 2 years. They were passing real legislation, but when that control of the House changed, then it limited what you were able to do.
Gotcha. We got our homegirl in the building, Robin Yvette. She's checked in. I'm gonna give her the microphone. Robin, how you feeling today? You got the election. You woke up today. I'm sure you voted. If you didn't, God bless it. It doesn't matter. How do you feel today?
Well, I'm excited. You know, this is a very important day, I feel like, for a lot of women right now. Me being 31, being able to see a black president now, we might see a female black president. It's very historical. So I'm just excited. I did go and vote today in North Chicago. You know,
shout out to the Go. Shout out to the Go.
That was the only place I was open. By the time I wanted to go, but I'm just excited. I'm just excited to see what happens. You know, I also feel like right now we are seeing more of media influenced presidential elections, more than we've ever seen before. Sure. So I think that that's really awakening the younger generation to want to pay attention. Now they are finding something to connect themselves with politics, which is something we don't really see. So I'm excited for that.
How cool did this campaign, because you're a media person for sure, you're in it, you know what's happening. When you talk about that media influence, what did you see? What was some of the things that got you excited that you saw out on the campaign trail?
Yeah, I mean, well, of course, Gorilla performing. That was unexpected as I don't know what. You know what I'm saying? As well as Beyonce endorsing and coming out, something we don't really
see. Did she perform? I didn't see it. Did she ever perform?
No, she came and spoke on her behalf. Her and Kelly Rowland came and spoke out, endorsing her officially.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Officially, which was really, really cool. So, like I said, right now, just seeing all the celebrities, which in the past they've kind of shunned away from, Sexy Red as well.
Definitely.
Shout out to Sexy. Look. But we just, seeing more of them condone and more of them in the media, more of celebrities endorsing, politicians, something that they've never done. And they don't really care either. They picking a side. Usher, he came out, he picked a side. They chopping up stuff. So I just love to see the influence. Like I said, I think this makes the politics more for the young people who are the ones that really do need to vote.
Absolutely. Brandon, when you look at the scope of Donald Trump being this polarizing figure in the world, everybody knew Donald Trump from being on TV. He was a president for 4 years. He's really had a lot of steam. He has a lot of people that believe in him. Talk to me a little bit about how effective, obviously I'm not picking any side, but how effective was that thing that he's done? He's done something.
I mean, Donald Trump is entertaining, right? And he was able to tap into what I think is I will say a righteous anger, right? So people who feel like the American dream is slipping away. And he was able to speak to some of that anger in what I would personally say is an unproductive way, right? But in a way that connected with over 50%, right? This when we look at what's going on, I always call it, I was talking to my dad actually today, and we were talking, it's a tale of two countries. Like, I really believe Donald Trump said the only way they win is if they cheat. And I think Democrats feel the same way, because depending on what side of the aisle you are, you're like, how could anybody support Donald Trump?
But how
and
scary,
on the other side, how could anybody support, VP Harris, right? That's super important.
How scary is that when you hear the rhetoric of Donald Trump and you say, well, there's nobody that could really align themselves with that. Nobody should ever align themselves with what he says. But you have this huge majority of that people that do. How scary is that as a citizen?
I don't know if we want to call it scary, and that's why I do think that we really do need to turn the rhetoric down, right? So one of the things for me, as someone who used to be an independent, firmly in the progressive column right now, but when you see people like Liz Cheney, right, coming out and saying that he's dangerous, right? When you hear his own what do you call it? Chief of staff, who comes out and says, "Hey, I'm not saying he's a fascist, but this is the definition for fascism." And I'm just saying, if it walked like a duck, call a duck, it ain't a chicken, right? And so that's important. And so I do think that what either candidate that wins, be that former President Trump or VP Harris, I think they have an obligation to try to be the president for all Americans, right? And that's very hard to do
because you have
in a country that's 50-50.
Especially today, it's fragmented to the most I've ever seen in my life. I've probably seen consciously maybe 4 presidents, maybe 4, I think. So when I'm looking at this now, the scope of it now, the scape of it is crazy right now, because it is 50-50. If Harris wins, it's like, well, how can she really get those Trump supporters to believe in her? If Trump wins, how does he get those Harris supporters to get on his side? So it's going to be a difficult and interesting thing to see.
It is, and I think you just got to tone the rhetoric down, right? Is take care of Americans, right? We talked about it being a divided Congress. We all talk about the border being an issue. So if we all believe that the border is an issue, then it should be easy, right, for Republicans and Democrats to come to the table and say, this is what we need to do about the border. We all are talking about everything being more expensive and inflation. And while inflation is coming down, I think it's very important that the next president prioritize the middle class, be that VP Harris or former President Trump, right?
I want to get Robin in. Robin, you being somebody who's, again, not in the political sphere as much. You're in media, you're in somebody who's collecting information, but you're a human being. You live every day. How much of that inflation, of feeling like, oh my God, everything costs so much, that could have swayed voters? And I know it has. People going in the booth saying, I can't pay for food, I'm voting for Donald Trump because he's saying whatever he's saying. How important, when you're feeling that, are you feeling that? And I don't know if that affected your vote, but how does it feel when you?
Yeah, I think that's a real honest question. A lot of people, that are transitioning into their adulthood are noticing the differences in inflation and the cost of living. So I think that can sway people, but the stimulus support was not free. So I think a lot of people have misinformation as well too about what Donald Trump can provide, thinking that it's going to solve problems, and it doesn't essentially. But I think that, again, to your point, Brandon, whoever does become the president, they need to decide the betterment of America as a whole, whether that be inflation, whether that be things we just can't accomplish, we're trying to overcome. But yeah, I mean, the cost of living is high as hell, and we do want to have somebody in office that's able to really understand the middle class, because we're the ones that's pushing America right now.
Sure.
And I think it's important to talk about that, right? Stimulus is part of what led to inflation. But it was done purposefully in that people were at home. Y'all remember what 2020 was like, right?
Yeah.
You made your living off hosting at the time. And so you're not
sure.
out in clubs. You're not doing those spaces, right? People aren't going into a Lucky Scotty's, right? I think election night, I was at home, in a mask, right? So that infusion of cash into the economy, the amount of money that was spent by the federal government
has to be balanced out.
It not just is what balanced out, but it's what led to inflation.
Sure.
And so then, as people have more money, more cash, and when the economy opened back up, y'all remember, like, flights was $400, $500, like stuff. It's because things
they
were
trying to tip the
supply
scales
and demand,
back,
right?
Yeah.
And so now it took time, but that's coming back and it's stabilizing. But for many people, like you say, if I used to pay $1.50 or $2.20 for gas, $3, and now I'm paying $4.25, you feel that. If I used to pay, $100 a month for electricity, and now I'm paying $200 a month, you feel that. The only thing that I always say is that all of the great recessions, right, have been under Republican presidents, with the exception of one. All of the, of the job creation, the most job creation has been under Democrats, but Republicans have been able to run a narrative in which they seem to be better on the economy. So, I mean, I'll kind of pose that to the group. Who do you feel is actually better for the economy, right? Because I think a lot of people are unhappy with where we are as a country. But which side do you rock with?
The tough part is I can't even answer that question correctly without me, like, looking at metrics and shit. The way I feel is a Republican president makes my life easier financially. That's the way I feel. I feel that as a business owner, my business ran better under Trump. And again, I don't know if that was because of the pandemic. I had a business open right after the pandemic, so it could have been something that had something to do with that. I don't know. But I know the way that it feels, personally, it feels that way, but I know for a fact my business we made more money under Trump. And I don't know if that's a direct connection to Donald Trump. That can just be, like you said, everybody want to come back outside after that.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. A lot of people who are making this decision, that's why I don't want to villainize anybody, is because there are people who are voting based on their pocketbook.
Yeah.
There are people, black, white, Hispanic, and, other, who are saying, I feel like life was better under President Trump.
Feel.
I'm not one of those individuals.
No, I feel you.
Because I remember, even from a school district, like that time of uncertainty, and having your leader saying that, hey, maybe y'all just want to inject yourself with bleach. I remember, like, when you don't have somebody at the top.
Yeah, he was tweaking.
That's just doing stuff, what that feels like. And I think sometimes, as consumers even, we forget, but those tax cuts, right? Didn't benefit.
Yeah.
I didn't get a benefit from those tax cuts. I don't know if you did.
No.
And so those are the things, is what are the segments of the community that we're focusing on. And so I'm hoping that people really did resonate with VP Harris's, prosperity agenda, and what she wants to do for, or opportunity agenda, and what she wants to do specifically for, to benefit black men, right? And I thought it was important to speak specifically to that group.
And you saw some metrics. You saw metrics today, which are saying that in this election, more Trump voters were black men and Latin men. For this election cycle, came out strongly for Trump.
He's making inroads.
Yeah.
He's making inroads, and that is important, right? I'm one of those individuals who don't think that we should be beholden to just one political party, right? I don't think that we should be choosing to go that way, but I understand why some people make that decision. And what the exit polls are showing is that Donald Trump is doing better with black and brown men. What I also will say is even with him doing better, we're not talking about 50%. We're talking about Obama got 90 and she got 85, right? I also don't like, and regardless of what happens tonight, the black community and specifically black men should not be used as a scapegoat for the Democratic Party to say, "Oh, she lost because black men didn't support her." Is because there is no other demographic that is supporting VP Harris, in those numbers of over 80%, right? And so don't chastise. I love President Obama, but I was pissed when he said,
he was tweaking.
He was tweaking.
That was the first time he ever said something I didn't like, ever.
And I was like, I was like, hey, dog.
Yeah. He got real comfortable with that, like he on the block. You know what I mean? So, but I got a question for Robin, though. Robin, my last question would be, when you talk about the crisis at the border, you have a lot of migrants who came into, illegal migrants who came into America, and they came to sanctuary cities, and the government spent somewhat over $53 million giving them debit cards with thousands of dollars on it. This is the Democratic Party who made that decision. Again, I'm not a Republican or whatever, but I do have a problem with that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that whole situation is a little sticky. I remember right before they announced that they were just dropping off immigrants in the city. I used to work at Catholic Charities in Chicago, and they were literally busing them to Catholic Charities with no information.
Yeah.
So I do think the Democrats attempted to provide direction for them. I just think the execution was done poorly.
Gotcha.
And I do feel now that they've gotten more accustomed to being here, it is becoming a problem. They're terrorizing neighborhoods, and they're not able to police it the same. So I think they just got to work on that execution a little better to flesh that out.
Got you. It's a good answer. Come on, B, let's go. Give me the straight up answer, dog.
See, I'm sorry if y'all don't understand. I'm drinking the communion juice, so if I'm a little bit loose on the tongue. Again, that was BS, right?
Okay.
It's because most of the resources to help migrants was at the border where they came into the U.S.
Okay.
And what happened was those Republican governors, rightfully so, were saying, y'all not taking it seriously. So to Robin's point, they started putting them on buses and dropping them off in communities.
Right.
Now, you said something, illegal immigrants.
No.
And
they were. They are.
They are not. They are migrants that are seeking asylum. No.
We'll argue on that all day.
But we have a process.
They didn't go through the process.
They did. They showed up at the border. They presented themselves.
Not all of them, though, bro.
Well, not all of them.
Yeah.
But the ones that we're talking about, they did. They said, I'm here in the United States seeking asylum. That is a legal process.
I don't know. I don't
So you,
I don't know if that's the correct. I get what you're saying, but never in American history ever has it happened like that.
No,
ever.
Because no. It was happening, and to the Republicans' credit, it was happening at the border. So these people used to show up in Texas or Florida or wherever they crossed and present asylum. And there were, because remember when Trump was criticized for his separation of migrants at the border.
But still and all, they don't get a check.
They don't get a check. They were getting resources.
You don't get a check. Give me the check. I've been living around this motherfucker for 35 years. Give me the money. Most black, even if they did it the correct way, they seek asylum in America. You don't get no money. If I ain't getting no money, don't get him no damn money. So even if they did it the right way.
So then give them a job permit. Right?
Don't give them shit. I ain't giving nobody. I'm not giving nobody nothing.
See,
ain't nobody gave me nothing. But ain't nobody gave me.
But you can work.
Nothing.
And you can. No.
That's cool. I gotta work. If you're not a
so
citizen,
let me finish that. Let me finish that.
Go ahead.
So that's what I'm saying. So if I show up and I present myself and I'm here, if they want to work, they don't have a social, right? And they don't have ID. So there were people who said, Mayor Adams in New York said, hey, I got jobs that are unfilled right now.
Right.
Let them work. And they were like, no. So they're here, how they gonna eat? How they gonna feed themselves? And that's the tricky part, is you have to create, either you gotta send them back or you have to figure out a process in order to make them American.
That's what I'm saying.
In the meantime, and again, I bring this different. I go to a church on the south side of Chicago where my pastor is black, and my position may be a little bit different than most. But if a kid comes to me and they show up in the middle of January and they ain't got no shoes on, hey, wear these shoes, dog. You ain't got no coat. Let me give you a coat. And I think
No, we're not
that's
arguing
the
that.
humanitarian
No, we're not
part.
arguing that. We're not
But
arguing
but but I think a lot of people are, right?
I think it was just the execution. It just felt sneaky, to a lot of people. And to Carlos's point, a lot of people felt like, why are we helping them when we're not getting help here? But to your point, yeah, when they're already here in the territory, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Hey, I'm a Republican on this topic for sure. No, seriously, and I shouldn't be stigmatized for that, only because I do believe that a lot of it happened, a lot of stuff that went down, like you said, that's uncontrollable. You can't go back on it. They're already here. So so what are you gonna do now, Carlos? What do you gotta send them back?
You still got to send them back.
You got to figure out a way to make it right. You can't just be like, all right, it's a free for all.
No. And this is
because this again, Joe Clark said this, and Lean on Me, and this is the part that people really miss in that movie. He said, this system is turning black people into a permanent underclass.
When you say, but that's the piece, is we don't have to demonize.
I'm not demonizing nobody.
I won't say that you are, but the language that we use when we talk about those that are in the country seeking asylum, because it's not just, and we try and make it a brown issue, but it's not. Those
it's
that
black.
But those that experience deportation at higher rates are Haitians.
Cool.
Right? No, but let me.
But that's because the process hasn't been targeted for that group of people.
But that's my point, is so individuals are here. And I remember, as someone who grew up in Waukegan, right? In the early 2000s, we had a mayor who was literally arresting those who were here without papers, those that were undocumented.
Yeah.
These individuals were business owners. They owned homes. They paid
That's
taxes.
tough.
And now they're going and being sent to a country. And what happened to that house? It didn't go to somebody else. It was part of what actually led to the 08 crash. So there's a way that you can, and why I take issue with this is because when it was Irish, give us your poor, give us your broke, give us your ill, and we'll take them. Right, you used to come into Ellis Island, you would get processed, and you would just be allowed in. But now that it looks, the people and where they're coming is different, right? So when you look
that could be the
truth.
That could be the scope of someone else. For me, it's not about that. It's about the process of me being black and watching my culture. For sure, we already don't unify as a culture.
Right.
One. Now, this process will truly, I just want it to be done right. I'm not saying nothing about a culture or their culture. I just want it to be done correctly, because if it's not, we're definitely going to be a permanent underclass for sure. No
and my thing is not, I don't think we have to be a permanent underclass, is because when I think about what it showed me, which is a lot of things, we've been talking about housing and the issue with housing in places like Chicago and Waukegan forever. You didn't want to address it. You always could.
Yeah.
You chose not to. I'm not going to demonize those people. I'm coming after the system, because what the system showed me is when they want to, they will.
Right.
When they want to, they can.
Yeah.
And so my whole point is,
and that's why we got to come together.
We got to come together. And the rhetoric around the them versus us, there's enough. Because when they want to drop bombs, it ain't no question. They just sign a check.
For sure.
And they just, however much it costs, they find trillions of dollars in order to sit there.
Yeah.
And
I'm salty at that.
And you can
because I want black people to receive the same amount of attention. That's the only thing I'm saying. The only thing I'm saying.
And I think that's fair, without pitting us against that group, because I think we should be advocating for a process for citizenship for individuals that want to be here legally, because that makes us all safer. You talked about safety. If I know who's here, then I can document and get through.
Sure.
And that's what Obama, they called him the deporter in chief. Now, what Obama said is, as long as you don't commit a crime, I'm going to leave you alone.
Yeah.
But you commit a crime, you got to go.
We live, man. We had Lucky Scotties, man. We live. This was a good discussion that we had amongst. We got one last segment. One last segment to get to. Shout out to Lake County Media. We got Brandon in the building. We got Robin Yvette. Big Drew's in the building. We live. We'll be back in a second. I just went Barry White real quick. I just went Barry real fast. We'll be back in a minute. Shout out to True Conglomerate.
Y'all